Recently I did a video where I covered 7 hands that I thought were important to know in Dash. The main reason for making the video was to try to evaluate some hands in the aggro versions of the deck, mainly because a lot of Dash cards are simply vanilla attacks with Go Again, and sometimes it's a little bit hard to understand when your cards are better blocking versus attacking, so this is another quick video breaking down 5 hands to help you better understand the aggro version in Blitz as well as CC. Once again, for all these hands today, we're going to be going off of a blue pitch in our hand, so 3 resources. And don't forget to add Teklo onto a lot of these hands, assuming that you started it in the field or you have one on the table, because you can add +2 onto all these hands, which is sometimes the difference between a lethal hand and a non-lethal hand. So going in the first hand here, just working off a blue pitch, we can chain together a pretty complex line. It's a little bit more of an intermediate style video, so we can play Zipper Hit boosting. And then because we boosted this turn, we can close the combat chain to activate Teklo Foundry Heart. We'll have 2 resources. We'll banish 2 cards. Assuming that our mech count is high enough and we hit 2 on the banish, we'll get 2 resources back, which means now we're back at 3 resources. The chain's been closed. And so now manipulating the chain, we can activate Goliath Gauntlet, and then we can then present a chain link with Zipper Hit. And then we can follow that with Payload, and Payload gets a +2 from Goliath Gauntlet. The reason why I needed to sequence it this way is if you played the Zipper Hit after the Teklo Foundry Heart and then activate Goliath Gauntlet, the chain breaks, so there's no boosted card in the chain for Payload. This is a little bit more complex, but a good way to manipulate the combat chain here. This next hand is pretty simple, working off 3 resources, no banish here, just simply high speed impact red and a combustible courier. Assuming that the high speed impact hits, you can then give the combustible courier dominate, which is going to increase the likelihood of it hitting, and then you can follow up with a 0 to 60. And then a way to actually really start to make this line work better is if you Goliath Gauntlet ahead of time, because then the combustible courier will trigger the Goliath Gauntlet. So assuming you have Teklo Pounder, high speed impact comes for 6, gives combustible courier dominate, comes in for 6 with dominate, and then the 0 to 60 comes in for 7 here. So once again, really important to understand when to use Goliath Gauntlet on your combat chain. So we're going to take that previous line and we're going to throw a little bit more complexity in there by putting Teklo Core in the field ahead of that turn. So we'll have 2 extra resources. We can actually play High Speed Impact and a Combustible Courier into another Combustible Courier into 0 to 60. So we're just layering 1 more Combustible Courier in there thanks to the 2 extra resources from the Teklo Core. Once again, remember to activate Goliath Gauntlet ahead of time, because if you play High Speed Impact and then close a chain to use Goliath Gauntlet on the Combustible Courier, if the High Speed Impact hit, the Combustible Courier doesn't have Dominate because you did a non-attack action, which closes the chain. And in Dash, a lot of the cards that actually do have on hits are normally very dependent on the combat chain itself. For instance, if you were to activate Goliath Gauntlet in between the 2 Combustible Couriers, even if one of them hit, the next one or the card you would boost would not get the +3 because it has to be on that combat chain. That's a really easy mistake that you can make. Going back to a more simple hand now, very easy, 3-card hand off a blue pitch, and you go High Speed Impact into Throttle. And it's just an easy way to present 10 damage. If your opponent actually wants to block out with armor or 2 cards on the High Speed Impact to prevent it, you can actually get them anyway by playing Payload afterwards, which is a pretty fun way to trick your opponent into overcommitting to a card and then still getting Dominate anyway. So regardless, either way, this can be an easy 10 damage hand off of 3 cards with Dominate. All right, for this next one, we're gonna start to break down how Achilles Accelerator can work in the deck. So we're gonna go Zipper Hit into the Teklo Plasma Pistol. With 1 resource left, we can then activate Achilles Accelerator to gain an action point because we boosted this turn, and then we can reload the pistol and fire for 2 more. Because as long as you have an action point or go again, on the pistol, it can attack more than once. It can actually attack as many times as you possibly can in a turn. Another way that's pretty effective and has actually won me a lot of games is to simply boost, attack with pistol, and then if your opponent drops low enough off the pistol attack, because it only comes in for 2, sometimes they'll go to 1 or a very low life total off of that, you can then break Achilles Accelerator and you can follow it with Payload. Now you would need more resources to do that, but I thought I would throw that out there just because it's pretty useful to know. Finally, for this last time, we're gonna be working off a 5-card hand, and we're gonna play High Octane from Arsenal, arsenaling it on a previous turn. We're also gonna make the assumption that you draw a blue off the High Octane. That's just an easier way for me to explain how this line would work, but you can go 0 to 60, red zipper hit, or any colors of zipper hit for that matter. You'll burn through your first blue because you pitched the blue to play High Octane, you had 2 resources floating, but then assuming you draw a blue off with a High Octane, at that point you can close the chain and pay in a Foundry Heart, and you'll have 3 floating. When you pay for it, you'll have 2. You'll get 2 resources back, you go up to 4 resources, and then you'll have 4 action points because you boosted 3 times this turn. turn on top of the go again from the boost itself. So with 4 action points and 4 resources, you then can shoot your pistol 4 times in a row. Because once again, the action is just to put a steam counter on it and then remove it. It doesn't say once per turn. So as long as the pistol has go again, or you have an action point, you can fire the pistol as many times as you can. So thanks for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, just breaking down more ways to play dash, more lines, better ways to understand the deck. You'll actually notice a lot of these hands have really good damage thresholds. And a lot of it is just because that's just her thing right now. But they just come in for raw vanilla damage. But sometimes there are on hits, right? Like Combustible Courier. And so I thought it'd be good to break down more lines, help you understand just how much damage the deck can actually do. Thank you for watching.